What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the 10 at 10. I'm your host, Steve Warner, giving you a little bit of motivation, a little bit more bounce in your step, giving you something to be excited about today. Sticking with the I Love Mondays theme, we have a guest today, and she is one of my favorite people in the world. Look at that smile. How can you not love that smile? Mindy West, I am glad that you are here. We're going to be talking today about overcoming guilt and money mindset. So I want to tell you how I met Mindy. So we were at a mastermind event, and somebody was like, you got to meet this girl. Like, she's thinking about moving to Colorado. So we started talking. She was like, yeah, my son just randomly pointed to Telluride, Colorado. I was living in Mexico, in Playa del Carmen, right?
Yeah. Playa del
And you were like, I'm going to move to Telluride because that's what the universe is telling me. And my woo-woo, like, stuff started going off, and I was like, I don't know about this. But Mindy, I will tell you, is not woo-woo. She actually comes from being a Microsoft consultant, which doesn't make any sense, but it does when you know her. So she has worked with me a little bit, helping me overcome some mindset issues that I've had over the last 4 or 5 years. She is absolutely wonderful at what she does. She has a lot of really cool techniques. She has an awesome story. Mindy, welcome.
Thanks, Steve. Nice to be here with you.
Thanks. So tell me a little bit. First off, you live in Telluride now, right?
I live in Telluride. It just stopped snowing outside, and yeah, it definitely was a change from Playa del Carmen. And I would say almost 2.5 years in, I'm still getting used to it. But it's pretty incredible to live at 9,000 feet. It's such a different experience than the beach.
Nice. So yeah. I want to talk. Sticking to the title of the show, let's talk about guilt and how to overcome it and how that affects you with money. Just like, how did you get involved with this? Tell us a little bit of your story.
Yeah. So about guilt or about money mindset or about both?
Both.
I'll just say, I love figuring out how people can make more money on the energetic, emotional, mental, mindset. I think mindset is the wrong word, but it's something that it's really easy for us to understand because it's never just in your head. It's actually going throughout your entire body, throughout your entire being. And it's an obsession for me. I just love to keep looking more and more and more and more into what are the tricks, what are the hacks, what can we do to shift what's going on inside of us to change our external reality? Because basically, reality is feedback, right? Everything that's going on outside of us is a reflection of what's going on inside of us. And as I go deeper and deeper into this, I realized one of the things that really holds people back is guilt about what's going on in their personal lives and their business of not showing up enough. And one of the things that I personally realized is that I feel like I have all these amazing things to offer the world, and I feel this guilt of if I'm not showing up every single day and doing as much as possible in this area, I start to get all this guilt piling up, and it's I'm not serving the world at my highest potential, right? And guilt is our lowest frequency of energy that we can have. When people have a lot of guilt, it really pulls you down, right? There's this, I'm blanking on the name, but frequencies of energy. There's guilt is at the bottom, love, joy, there's these higher ones, right? When the more that we go up, the better our life is, the better our experiences in this world, right? When we're hanging out at the bottom in guilt, it really stops so much of our life from expanding. And in terms of money, it stops us from creating as much money as possible, not only on the energetics of it, but in the ideas, the innovation, the creativity. It just doesn't happen as much if we're in guilt.
Well, I mean, if you're in guilt, you really you're feeling bad, right? And you can't hold two emotions at the same time. So if you're feeling guilty and you're feeling depressed and you're feeling down and you stay in those emotions, how can you move forward? Something I want to bring up, you and I were talking about before that we jumped on here, was the idea we feel guilty about things that we probably shouldn't feel guilty for. You're feeling guilty for not showing up. I feel guilty for not writing emails, right? But then I was like, how can I fix that in my own life? I was like, well, so I mean, I'll give we'll hook this to later. I'll give how I move past feeling guilty about emails. But first I want to talk about like, what do you do? Like, where were you feeling guilty and how did you move past it?
Yeah. So I think that's a good point, because a lot of times when we use the word guilt, we think that we've done something bad. We feel guilty because we did something bad. And that, I mean, yeah, of course that happens, but so much guilt comes from the internal pressure that we just put on ourselves. It's the guilt of not doing enough, not being enough, not having enough, not like writing emails, not doing Facebook lives every day, not, yeah.
Well, exactly what you're saying. Like, those pressures are not real.
They're not
right.
real.
There's something we see. I mean, if you're not an entrepreneur or not digital marketer, I don't know why you'd be watching this, but if you look at Instagram, right, you see somebody else's basically their like highlight reel and you're like, oh, I need my life to be like that. So you feel guilty. Or I mean, I felt I had to write emails because that's what everybody said. And I was like, no. I need to do what fits for me. So how did you talk to me a little more about that? Like, that's
well, it's funny that you say about Instagram, because I actually found myself getting caught up in that of like, wow, look at this person, like they have such a big beautiful house, and like, and then I don't have like a huge house, I have like a condo in Telluride. And then I realized and something in my head said like, they're being more successful because they have this big beautiful house. And I realized, wait, their big beautiful house costs half as much as my condo in Telluride because they live somewhere that's so cheap, right? Versus Telluride is super expensive. And it was just like, oh, I'm not doing enough. Hey, Katie. And anyway, what was I going with?
You were talking about houses and condos and how you felt like you weren't doing enough. But I mean, you own a condo in the most beautiful mountain town in the world, 10 feet from a ski lift.
Right. But I felt like it wasn't enough because I would look on Instagram at all these big, beautiful houses that I was like, wait a minute, that's such a crazy perception. It's such a crazy perception, right? But back to about the guilt and how it's not actually real. It's these things that we make up in our head, right? It's all of our stories that we're playing out or we take on from our parents, from our society, from our communities. Like in our digital marketing community, we have the guilt of not writing enough emails and not showing up enough. But that's just something that we took on that's not even real, right? So how do we, and those not real things are what actually holds us back from making money. And it's really interesting because we get so caught up in the story and we obsess about it and we think about it and we think about it all day long. And then we're like, oh, I should write this email. And then you think about it for 8 hours before you sit down to write the 10-minute email. And it just keeps you caught in the cycle of like not actually creating what you need to create. So
I mean, it sounds like what you're saying and what I've experienced in my own head, right? You feel guilt about something. So then that leads to you not wanting to like do it. But like if I say pink elephant, you have to think of a pink elephant. So if I say, I don't want to write emails, I'm like, I don't want to write emails. And then I think about it all day, 8 hours of this like brain drain, negative energy, like, right? Because it's in the back of my head all day. I'm making coffee. Oh, I should be writing an email. I go out for a run. I should be writing an email. Like that's not a high vibration. So then I finally sit down and it takes me 10 minutes to write the freaking email and move forward. And then I move past it. But all day long, it took up mental energy, mental space, and pushed me down. Do you have the same experience?
Yep, definitely. And one of the things that I've realized going through this like obsession about money mindset is that I used to think that it's about like the big picture and we have to like release all these blocks to the big picture. And actually, if we can just start looking at every little tiny step of the day and like, what is the block to that email? Release it. What is the block to showing up on Facebook? Release it. What is the block to, I don't know, creating a new headline in your sales funnel? Release it. Like if we could go through our day and all these little micro tasks start to like release the mental emotional blocks that are behind those, release the guilt that's behind those, that's what's going to add up to such a bigger picture than like releasing a block on creating a whole new program or creating a whole new business, right?
Well, I would think a lot of the times the block to creating a program, right? Or the block to doing that is really because we tie it back to, I don't want to do emails, or I mean, earlier we were talking, right? And you were like, I know that I need to I need to launch this a little bit harder. I need to push harder on my program, but I don't really want to do a whole bunch of coaching calls.
Right.
Right. I mean, not to call you out on a Facebook Live, but
Yeah.
let's talk about that situation a little bit, because I feel like that is really informative and really helpful. I mean, you know the answer. You knew the answer, but I think I had to help you a little bit.
Right.
But go ahead.
Well, it's funny because I do this for a living, and yet I still need the same thing done to me, right? We always need someone to bounce things off of. Yeah, like our conversation earlier was that I created this new course, and I know it's so impactful and so powerful, and I feel like it's my life work that has all come together in one thing, in one package. But I've been hesitant to launch it and scale it because I've thought in my mind that I need to then show up on coaching calls every week or twice a week and do all of these things that in reality don't actually need to happen, because the course stands for itself on its own. And so because I felt this like guilt of not wanting to like show up, and then the guilt of like feeling bad about not wanting to do that, and it's this whole spiral turned into paralysis of not actually launching anything.
Well, I think that's what happens, because if we feel guilty and we feel bad around something, we do one of two things. We either ignore it and push it away from us, or we make up a story of why it's okay. And then that leads to limiting beliefs, right? We end up with the limiting belief of, well, I'm not good at that. I don't really enjoy it. I don't want to do it. It wouldn't really help my business, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just facing up to it and saying like, okay, maybe I don't like it, but I mean,
I'm supposed to like it. I'm supposed to like it.
So
that's
I'm going to
give like those supposed to's, should, right? It's all those shoulds that block so much. Where does should? Should is guilt.
Well, that's so. To bring the story to a close for me with email, what I did was I just actually said, okay, instead of stressing over it, I'm going to start. So everybody's first email they get from me says, I'm not great at writing, but I'm here doing it because I feel like it will help you. If you don't want to receive them, you can opt out. I'm not great at spelling. I'm not great at grammar. And I usually write them at 11 o'clock at night when I have a bright idea for you. So either enjoy them and take them for what they are, or unsubscribe. I don't really care. Video is my thing. If you want to check out my YouTube channel, here's a link to that. That freed me up. And then the other thing is, like, I don't feel bad if I don't write an email. Like, I just stopped. I was like, if I feel like writing it, I'm going to do it. And even if like I guess maybe I should clarify, feel and like know that you should do something. If I feel like I should have something to share, then I sit down and write. Mm-hmm. And I push forward. Sometimes I don't necessarily feel like it, but I don't feel guilty because I know the thing. So that was how I handled that little piece. But you have a whole bunch of techniques. So I'd love to hear, now that we've kind of gone through what guilt is and what it can create, how can people overcome it?
Yeah, one of the most basic, easy things that you can do, I almost hesitate talking about it because to me it feels like so easy, but it's so effective, is just start writing it down. Just start trying to turn off your mind, doing like, let your subconscious come through and write. And if you don't know what to say, but like you're feeling all this anxiousness within you or whatever you're feeling, just start to write like, I'm writing, I don't know what I'm feeling. And then it will start coming out, because what you want to do is turn off that like thinking part of your brain, just let it flow out onto paper and then burn it. Or if you don't feel like you can burn it, like I just burn it over the kitchen sink. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Or you can like run it underwater, or you can just somehow let the energy go. Because what you're trying to do is letting this chaos energy come up and out of you and then letting it go, right? Because we're seeing it for what it is. We're letting what we need to see come out of us, but we don't want to hold on to it. We don't want to keep it. We just want to let it go. The burning is like the energy transmission of it. The other thing that I really find for this situation is the more that you can become aware of what's actually going on, right? Those 8 hours prior to the email, like a lot of people want to like trick themselves into not actually realizing what's going on. Becoming aware of it and just like, then it doesn't have any power over you, right? What's going on is when you're in those like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. Like that's holding you. It has all the power over you. And then you see it for what it is and you let it go. So that subconscious writing is just the easiest way. There's other energy healing tricks. There's using like plant medicines, there's meditation tricks, there's all kinds of things you can do. But the one thing without any other skills is just writing.
So to speak to that, Mindy challenged me, I don't know, 2 months ago, 2 or 3 months ago. I don't even know. You were like, just do it for 10 days. Just sit down with a blank sheet of paper, set a timer for 15 minutes, and just start writing. And if you, to her point, you don't need to know what you're writing. Just start writing. I don't really know what I'm writing. I just need to get rid of the negative energy in my life. I need to start moving past it and like let it go stream of conscious. And I don't know, it usually took me about half a page to like get past that. But then stuff will start coming out and just like let it go. Let it go, move past it. So I know you talked about a few other things. Talk about meditations for a second, because I know you have a whole course on meditations.
Yeah. So meditations and energy healing, like I kind of use those terms interchangeably in a way, because all the meditations I create are energy healings. But when you can allow energy just to like flow through your body and unblock everything, then it's kind of like magic to me. It's like it just works, because you're going through and you're finding those, like, think of, there's all these like knots within us that are holding us back, and like these patterns, right? These conscious loops, these patterns. When you can start unwinding those and letting them go, then that does the same thing in a way as the writing, right? It's because the writing is unwinding the patterns through your pen, right? When you meditate, you can unwind the patterns through your through the energy coming through you, through your mind, through your body. You know, I was actually reflecting this morning when I first started on this journey. I went to several of Vipassana meditation courses, which are 10-day meditation courses, and they would talk about these, like, they use different words, but we'll say like energetic patterns. And the more that you meditate, just by being consciously aware all the time of what's going on in your body, what's happening in your body, you would start to unwind them and unravel them. So there's so many different ways to get to the same result. It just depends on what you're doing. And one of the easiest meditations you could do, easy in like understanding it, not easy to actually implement, is just like watching your breath, feeling your breath. Like, how does it feel on your upper lip? How does it feel coming out of your nose? Because what you're going to find is you'll feel it, and then your mind will go away, and then you'll come back to it. You'll feel it, and then your mind will go away. And all these subconscious patterns will start to really come up. The more that you're trying to concentrate, you'll start to think about all these random things. You're like, oh, that's what's happening. But it's not the thinking that's really doing the result. It's not like that's what you're trying to get to. It's training your brain to come back. Because every time you train your brain to come back, it's like those things don't matter as much. Train it to come back. Train it to come back. Train it to come back. So you program your mind to stop letting the distractions happen. And I tell you, this is when I was doing these meditations every day, like 2 hours a day, and going to these retreats, I was so productive. I'm going back to that, let me tell you, because I realized that was the most productive time I've ever been in my life. Like, I trained my brain so well. Being a mom has undone some of that training, so it's time to get back, because the mom is all out here, constant distraction. But that's one of another easy way that you can start undoing those patterns.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit. Let's bring that full circle. And how does that actually tie to making money? Because we're talking about money mindset. I know you love making money. I know I love making money. So how does that actually tie to, because I feel like a lot of people are probably like, well, I'm guilty around having money. I'm guilty around making money. I'm guilty around, like, how do I get rid of that stuff? Right?
Yeah. So guilty around having money, guilty around making money. There's so many ways we can go about this, but again, letting go of that guilt is going to allow you to make more money. Though if you don't really want to make more money, then so the more that you can free up yourself from that, the more money is going to flow to you. Like I said earlier, what's going on inside is going to be reflected outside of you. So if you could start looking at, like, why do you actually feel guilty about making money, right? Because if you feel guilty about making money, maybe you feel like you're not spending it in the right way. You're like doing better than other people. You're whatever it is. So like actually looking at that Because the more that you realize what's happening and why you feel guilty around making money, you're going to let it go and you're going to allow yourself to come into a higher level. And so much of that too is that money loves a purpose. If you're feeling guilty about just having all this money in the bank and doing nothing with it, find a purpose for it, whether that's investing in yourself, investing in your future, in your whatever it is, whether it's giving some of it to charity or starting a nonprofit or wherever you are, right? Find a purpose for your money. But ultimately, the guilt comes back to money mindset because money is never about money. It's almost never about money. So what blocks us from money are generally one of three things. I'm not good enough. Who am I to do this? And I don't deserve this. If you have guilt around making too much money, you're in I don't deserve this. That's the category. If you have like guilt around how you're living your life, that's I'm not good enough, right? So when we start pulling away all these layers, we'll realize like the money was never about the dollars and the cents. It was about your self-worth. It's about how you show up. It's about how you feel like you're good enough, how you feel like you deserve this, how you feel like you want to have a purpose for this and you want to see it grow and you want to move it forward. So it's really like we say money mindset as if it's about dollars. It's not about dollars. It's about who you are and how you're able to show up in the world. And if all this guilt is holding you back, then you're never going to be able to show up in that way. Does that make sense, Steve?
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. So if you're feeling that, if you're like, well, sometimes I've definitely said I'm not good enough, right? I think we all have a hard time admitting that we've said that. I know I used to. I don't anymore. But the way that you move past it, like the easiest thing is start writing about it. Just doing 10 days of it, which is what Mindy recommended me a couple months ago, definitely helped free that up. It changes the way that you talk to yourself. Changes the way that you talk about yourself to other people. It changes your inner mind work, which is really what this is all about. Mindy, thank you so much for sharing all this. If people want to find you, want to learn more about you, should they reach out on Facebook? What should they do?
Yeah. Reach out on Facebook. I imagine you tagged me in this video. If you haven't, Steve, tag me in this video. Send me a message and we will connect.
Awesome. Mindy, thank you so much. To everybody else, thanks for tuning in. I hope you found this helpful. If you have questions or comments, Mindy is tagged in the post. Put them underneath. We'll both comment on them. We are here to help people. It has been awesome to have you on today. And as always, take action, change lives, and make money. We'll see you soon.